let's take a minute to talk about mining. More specifically, I wanted to take a minute to talk about the different refinery methods. The refinery method that we choose not only influences how fast we get our refined materials, but how much money we spend refining those materials. And everyone knows we're mining in the business of making money, so how we do this is going to determine how efficient we are at making that money. And while there's a lot of different refinery methods in the game of Star Citizen, there's really only two main ones. And the two main ones are going to be the Farron Exchange and the Dinks Solvanation. The Farron Exchange is going to be low speed, moderate cost, and high yield, while the Dinks Solvanation is very low speed, low cost, but also a high yield. Both of these methods will produce the same amount of refined ore, but the Dinks Solvanation is half the cost while taking 3 times as long. Now, it's my personal opinion that the time is much less important in the end than the cost. At the end of the day, we're still going to have to haul a certain amount of SCU from the refinery to our sell point. Using the lower cost option at the end of the day is going to save you the most money and generate the most profit. The only time I'd say there is an exception is if there's an imminent patch and you don't want to lose your refinery orders before you can go sell them. Now, also with your refining schedule will have to come your hauling schedule. Now, your hauling schedule can be split up into one of 2 ways. The first, and this is in no particular order, is to haul your material at the beginning of your mining day. So this would mean you pick up your cargo ship, grab your refined ore, and go sell it before you go and pick up your prospector and start your mining expedition. And this is where I hear the Farron Exchange come up a lot, because people want to go and sell the material that they were mining the day before without having to wait the extra time and have additional orders stacking up at the refinery. And I still think that the Dinks Solvanation is still the better choice for this type of hauling schedule. And while you won't be hauling the materials that you mined the previous day, you'll still be hauling the materials that you mined 2 days ago or 3 days ago. So instead of hauling in Monday's minables on Tuesday, you would end up hauling them in on Wednesday or Thursday. And keep in mind that some of these refinery times would be longer with larger loads, like from the mole, but the general concept is still going to remain the same. The other way that you can manage hauling your materials is doing it all in one day, say Friday at the end of your mining week. This will mean that if you're hauling on Friday, you're not going to be bringing in Thursday or potentially Wednesday's materials, but instead you have Wednesday and Thursday's materials from the previous week. So in the end, it means that the Farron Exchange doesn't have really that much of a benefit over the Dinks Solvanation. Whereas the Dinks Solvanation will potentially save you hundreds of thousands of credits over the course of a week with the reduced refinery costs. And the next topic we're going to cover is going to be material selection. prior to 319, there was really only one material to mine, and it was quantanium. Everything else in the verse was just not worth it. And now with the addition of the 319 mining changes, we essentially have 3 tiers of materials. Up at the top is still quantanium, which is far more valuable than any of the other materials listed, but is also extremely rare to come across. Not to mention also being rather difficult to mine properly. This means that now miners are going after the tier 1 or tier 2 materials, and if they happen to stumble across quantanium, well, that's just an added bonus. Now where the debate comes in is whether you exclusively go for tier 1 materials or you take whatever tier 2 materials come along, and if there's a tier 1 there, well, that's just an added bonus. And I think that this is a much more debated and polarizing topic, as it's not as clear-cut as I think the refinery methods happens to be. This decision is likely going to come down to a lot of different factors. What vehicle you're using to mine, what vehicle you have to haul with, and where you're mining and refining your materials. If you have a smaller cargo ship that you're using to haul your refined ore into sell, well, then it might be worth it to wait for the tier 1 materials only. Because we end up coming back with a less overall quantity of tier 1 materials when we're mining, our refined orders are going to be much smaller, and we'll have to make less trips with this smaller cargo ship. And on the opposite side, if you have a large cargo ship, you might not care how much refined ore you ultimately have, because it's all just going to take you one trip to bring all your material in to sell. Another major factor is going to be where you're mining and where you are refining. If you're mining in the Aaron Halo belt and refining somewhere on the edges of the Stanton system, you may want to be more selective in what you grab, as a good portion of your time is going to be spent traveling to and from the refinery. So taking an extra couple minutes to find those tier 1 materials will likely be worth it in the long run. On the opposite side of that, if you're mining at Aberdeen and refining at Hurston L1, well, you've got a short round trip, so it might be worth it to make more trips with tier 2 materials just to collect that profit in a timely manner, as opposed to searching for the tier 1 or quantanium. And again, a lot of this is going to come down to a number of factors and personal preferences. Me personally, I've been sticking to only tier 1 materials, even though I mine close to my refinery, simply because I don't have a cargo ship to make a lot of these runs back and forth. So I want to make every run count as much as possible. You can take this information and decide what's best for yourself. And that's going to wrap it up for me. If you have any thoughts on the matter, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked the video, hit like. If you really liked it, hit subscribe. If you want to see more live content, you can always join me on Twitch at twitch.tv/a_wolf09.